From Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, this is the news at 10, live from Channels Television. Reported tonight, Amarachi Ubani.
Good evening and welcome, and compliments of the season. Tonight, horror as police parade a 13-year-old suspected female suicide bomber in Kano. Security comes under focus as we continue our review of major events in 2014. All set for Christmas as Nigerians make last-minute preparations for the festivity. Inspector General of Police promises adequate security. And outrage and protest trail killing of another black teenager in St. Louis near the scene of the killing of Michael Brown in the United States.
On business news tonight, financial markets are closed on Thursday and Friday this week as the Christmas celebrations begin.
And in sports news, West Ham midfielder Alex Song excluded from Cameroon's Africa Cup of Nations squad.
We begin tonight with an update on investigations into an attack on the Quarry textile markets in Kano State on December 10th. A 13-year-old female was among the suspected suicide bombers who were meant to carry out the attack. Although her bomb failed to detonate, the female, Zaharau Adamu, confirmed that those of her partners exploded, killing 6 people at the market. At a press conference, the police commissioner, Kano State Command, Aderile Shinaba, told journalists that Zaharau Adamu was arrested in a hospital in the city after sustaining an injury following the explosion at the market.
Another bombing, another tale of woes, leaving in its wake sorrow, tears, and blood. December 10th, 2014 is another date added to the timeline of bombings in Nigeria, this time in Kano. Reports say the December 10th bombing in Kano Quarry textile market was carried out by girls. Sadly, little Zaharau from Yobe State and recruited by her father was to die as one of the suicide bombers, but her strap bomb didn't go off. She tells us more.
My father took me to the bush where there's nothing except tents. They asked if I wanted to go to heaven. When I said yes, they said I have to do suicide bombing, and if I attempt to run, they will kill me.
As a result of the blast in the marketplace, she got some injuries on her legs, which made her to run to the hospital where we were able to apprehend her. As far as the issue of whether the lady is under the influence of drug or not, I'm not competent to speak on that because I'm not a medical doctor. I want to disabuse the minds of the members of the public that no tribe, this is not an intertribal war. It's a terrorism act like we have had in the past. So it has nothing to do with any government. It has nothing to do with any tribe.
Perhaps another consolation, according to the State Commissioner of Police, is that Zaharau is not one of the Chibok girls. She still will remain in police custody pending court actions. Olu Phillips, Channels Television News.
In the meantime, victims, relatives of the victims, medical officials and security agents are still trying to come to terms with the bomb that went off at the Bauchi Central Market. The explosion shook the market, engulfing it in flames and claiming lives. The Bauchi State Police Public Relations Officer, Haruna Mohammed, told Channels Television that the police is intensifying efforts to ascertain the cause and those behind the explosion.
On Monday, December the 22nd, this was the picture of the Bauchi Central Market following an explosion that left at least 7 people dead and many injured. Today, some relatives and friends of victims are visiting their loved ones that survived in the hospitals, while others count their losses.
We had a heavy blast inside Central Market, where my shop and my brother is taking care of him, and he lost his 2 children. And look at him now; he's on the bed, and he has a complex fracture on his 2 legs now.
The medical personnel, some of whom had to suspend their industrial action to help out, worked to relieve the pain. They give an update of the situation in the hospitals so far.
Out of the 27, we have 21 of them are adult males and 2 adult females. We also have 2 male children and 1 female. They received various degrees of injuries, actually, mostly burns injuries, and they have been stabilized.
The spokesman of the Bauchi State Police Command attempts to assure the residents that the police is on top of the situation.
We have arrested 3 suspects in connection to looting. They went there and attempted to loot the properties of some of the victims who evacuated their properties from the shops in order not to allow the fire to come and consume their properties. And unfortunately, these suspects went to loot those properties, and we have arrested them, and investigation is in progress.
The Bauchi State Governor and the Emir of Bauchi at different times paid individual visits to the scene of the incident and the hospitals. The 2 leaders condemned the attack. Security has been beefed up around the Bauchi metropolis, and the residents have been asked to be a bit more security conscious, especially in this festive season.
A series of explosions, abductions and invasions on communities in parts of the country by militant sect Boko Haram, predominantly in the northeast part of the country, dominated security concerns in 2014. The attacks have claimed many lives and displaced thousands within the country and made many refugees in neighboring countries of Niger, Chad and Cameroon. Our correspondent Amaka Okafor takes a look at the nation's security in 2014.
Attacks by the Boko Haram insurgents spilled into 2014 despite efforts by the military to curb the activities of the group. Prominent of the attacks within the year is the abduction of over 200 schoolgirls in Chibok, Borno State by members of the Boko Haram sect. That abduction and subsequent reaction of government led to a series of campaigns locally and internationally calling for the release of the girls.
Bring our girls back! Bring our girls back! Bring our girls back!
While the girls are gone for over 250 days and the movement calling for the rescue of the girls intensifies, there are concerns over their faith. These concerns were raised as the nation witnessed its first case of female suicide bomber in a military barracks in Gombe on Sunday, June 8, 2014. That attack was followed by several cases of female suicide bombings in Kano, Maiduguri and several towns in northern Nigeria. The nation's capital also witnessed its fair share of bombings as residents of Nyanya, a suburb of Abuja, witnessed twin bomb explosions within a month. Boko Haram groups claimed responsibility for the blast, casting doubt on the nation's security efforts. In the wake of the incident, Aminu Oguche, the alleged mastermind, fled the country to Sudan. He was later extradited with the help of the international police to answer charges of terrorism. Initial attempts to arraign him suffered a setback when the Department of State Services and the police disagreed on which agency should charge him. Despite a judicial pronouncement striking out the case, Oguche remains in the custody of the Department of State Services. While he is contesting his continued detention, the security agencies are still investigating his involvement in the blast before returning to the court. The attacks continue as the Islamist group attacked several villages and towns, including Bama, Konduga, Goza, Vintim, Baza, Ashaka and Mubi. The group declared some of the areas as a caliphate, while the Nigerian military made efforts to recover some of them. They killed several members of the group in the process, including one Abdullahi, whom they claimed is the leader of the group, named Abubakar Shekau.
One Mohammed Bashir, who has been acting or posing on videos as the deceased Abubakar Shekau, that eccentric character that is known as the leader of the group, died in that operation.
While government forces and the insurgents continue to engage in battle, the federal government announced a ceasefire with the group, a declaration that was criticized, especially after it was discovered to be a fraud.
A ceasefire agreement has been concluded between the federal government of Nigeria and Al-Sunnah Lidawa wal Jihad.
The real Boko Haram we know, who are killing us, who are burning our towns and villages, I'm sure are not the Boko Haram they negotiated with.
These attacks has left over 3,000 people dead and hundreds of thousands internally displaced persons. The operations against the insurgents suffered several setbacks. Chief amongst them is the inadequate equipment. This made the Air Force suffer casualty following the crash of its fighter jets on several occasions. The problem was further compounded by seizures of cash meant for the purchase of military equipment by South African authorities. The military also convicted some of its officers accused of mutiny, which further depleted the military strength in the fight against insurgency. The year also witnessed the extension of a state of emergency in Adamawa, Yobe and Borno states. However, federal lawmakers failed to approve another extension of the emergency rule after 18 months of the initial declaration. This was after security operators restricted some lawmakers from gaining entrance into the National Assembly complex. But there were some success stories in the fight against the insurgents as the military recovered some of the towns declared a caliphate by the insurgents. The military authorities also purchased more arms and ammunition and reviewed its counter-terrorism operations while seeking the cooperation of neighboring countries. Looking at 2015, the immediate challenge before the nation's security agency is how to ensure a peaceful conduct of the general elections. Amaka Okafor, Channels Television News.
In part two, after the break, a retired colonel takes a look at the security situation in the country. That's in a moment. Please stay with us.